Join us as we dive into the wild world of government auctions and take you behind the scenes to uncover the cool and unique ways bidders from across America are utilizing the items they've won on Municipal. Like an ambulance repurposed into a work truck, to a city bus converted into an RV, and so much more. Welcome to the Municipal Podcast.
Hi, Jason.
How are you?
Doing great. How are you?
Good, very good.
Thank you very much for doing this interview today.
Absolutely.
Can you start us off, give us an introduction of yourself and what you do here at West Norriton Township?
Sure. So my name is Jason Bobst. I'm the township manager here for West Norriton Township here in Montgomery County. And pretty much I serve as the chief executive officer on behalf of the 5 elected board of commissioners here in the town.
So what does your day-to-day look like? What's involved with all of that?
I wish there would be a typical day, but it's not the typical 9 to 5 that you're probably used to in the corporate world. We have a pretty eclectic services that we provide here in the chip. One of the unique things that we do is we actually own a municipal golf course, which most municipalities don't. So we do have a publicly owned golf course that we operate. Not something that I was expecting when I came here in 2012, but it's something that I've learned and come to love. But we have our finance department, we have police and fire, parks and recreation. So we have a lot of the quality of life things that we do, code enforcement, public work. So not every day is the same, which is but you have your stressful days and your fun days. And I think that's what keeps it interesting and what makes municipal government a unique position that you can get into just because of the variety that you face every day.
What brought you to be township mayor of Norriton?
Pretty much by accident. So I graduated college. I worked in the nonprofit sector in transportation management. We opened up a field office in Pottstown where Municipal is actually headquartered. And I got to know the people that were elected there. The mayor, the city manager at the time was a man named Ray Lopez, and the Chamber of Commerce president. And the assistant manager's job opened up in the town. And it was kind of in line with what I was doing in the private sector with transportation-related items. So got hired as the assistant manager at the age of 25 and became the borough manager at the age of 27. Not what I was expecting to get into at such a young age. The one connection with the Municipal is that Greg Berry, the founder of Municipal, was one of my council members at the time when I was in Pottstown. So I got to see the creation of how Municipal came about and Greg's brainchild that came out of this. So then in 2012, I came down to West Norriton, and I've been here ever since.
And Greg says hi. Like he was really excited.
Yeah, Greg's awesome. I love Greg. So. Awesome.
Yeah, we just got in yesterday. But yeah, so he was like, "Oh, Jason's great." And, very cool. So can you tell us about something unique about West Norriton Township and like maybe some fun facts about the township?
Sure. I think is our municipal-owned golf course. So in the early to prior 1930s, it was a horse farm called the Montgomery County Riding Academy. And then the owners of the course were the Evans family. And they hired an architect by the name of Donald Ross to design our golf course. If anyone knows the golf game, Donald Ross is probably one of the most premier golf architects from the 1920s and 1930s. He designed Aronimink, Pinehurst, some of the bigger courses that are country clubs across the country. So we have a unique opportunity where we own one of the few publicly owned Donald Ross designed golf courses. So we get people from across the country that come in here to play the course. And our superintendent and our staff out there do a really good job of keeping it in its design. The uniqueness of our township is that we were originally Norriton Township, and we split in 1909 to become East Norriton Township and West Norriton Township. And the center of our town was a place called Jeffersonville. So if anyone knows history and how politics of the 1700s and 1800s, supporters of certain political ideologies focused in town centers. And our town was called Jeffersonville because a lot of the people who supported Thomas Jefferson lived in our area. So that's how we got the name Jeffersonville, which is kind of awesome being, close to Philadelphia and, the colonial era and when it used to be the nation's capital. That's another one of our really cool claims here in Montgomery County.
Yeah, it's been really cool as we've been driving through like Plymouth Lane and like Colonial, Pike, and
we're literally,
it's really awesome. All the history.
We used to call ourselves the gateway to Valley Forge because we literally share a border with Upper Marion Township where Valley Forge National Park is. So George Washington camped out a couple 100 yards from our township border. So it's really neat to be in this kind of like Cradle, Liberty area with, everything we have in the history that we have here.
Yeah, very rich with the history. It's been really cool, and the original buildings that are here too.
Yeah, they do a lot of real good jobs with the architecture here, preserving the history and understanding where we came from and how this country developed, and it developed not too far from here.
So this township's very rich. What do you love the most about West Norriton?
The people. I mean, this is one of the few places where it actually truly is a community. We care about each other. They look out for each other. There is a sense of family here when you live here and you here. I had the fortunate chance to work here and also live here, so I see both sides of that, and it's true. I mean, I can't think of a better place to when it comes to the people that live here and the people that work here.
That's wonderful to hear. We come from a small town too up in North Idaho, and just that real community, you know.
And that's what it is here. I mean, it's it's supportive, it's open, it's inclusive. There's a lot of diversity here. I mean, we're a town of just over 16,000 people, and you kind of get to know everybody because it's a very small town feel. I mean, we have a great park system where all of our families congregate and things like that. So, it's definitely a unique place to live, and that's why we like living. I think people choose to live in West Norriton.
Yeah, knowing your neighbors.
Exactly.
Why do you think it's important for municipalities to sell their government surplus?
Sure. I mean, I think it's being good stewards of the taxpayer dollars. I mean, I equate this to almost being like a parent, and the residents are our parents, and we get an allowance, and you got to make sure you spend your money the right way. And when our items come to their useful life, we want to make sure we get the best return from it. And using municipal and things, the other sites that are out there, it gets your biggest return on your because it expands a wider variety. It gets you more people. I mean, we just sold an item municipal bid for someone in Rhode Island. So we wouldn't get that through the traditional paper process, the traditional bid process. So it definitely has opened up a new horizons for us in regards to putting government surplus back in there. Because in the grand scheme of things, our items, we're not selling junk in a way. We're selling good quality items that some people can put to use for a second time or a third time. So we like that idea, and the return that we get through the bid process with companies like municipal, we get a bigger return on our value. Because it's not a sealed bid process, it's competitive, it's a back, and it really kind of drives up the values for us.
What challenges did you face before with selling your government surplus prior to using municipal?
I think it was a smaller audience. So when you use the traditional, newspaper process, it's only going to go to those who read it. I mean, technology has advanced far enough that, you can pull up a website on your iPhone. There's apps. There's all things that you can do that gives you more of an audience than what we previously had. Like I said previously, we've sold items to people in Canada and all over the place just because the internet's a great thing because it connects you to more people than the traditional newspaper process would.
Yeah, it's amazing how far bidders are willing to travel for the right item.
Yeah, and especially when it comes to government surplus items, I think, and I like the interaction with it too, because if people ask questions, you can answer them immediately. If they ask for additional pictures on something that's listed, or have a question on hours on a mower or a golf cart or truck, you had that more immediate connection with them to answer those questions, and I think it gives them more peace of mind than going in blind on a sealed bid process through the newspaper process.
Right, and with the sealed bid process, were they able to inspect items in person?
They were. We don't, be available Monday through Friday, kind of during the working hours. I think with being able to post pictures and videos and things like that, it gives them at least a little bit more of an immediate hands-on approach, and then they can follow up with, the records that we keep and things like that. That's a little bit more, I guess, peace of mind for them in that process.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, we've heard that from our bidders, how impressed they are with the maintenance and the records that goes into upkeep on the vehicles and the equipment.
Exactly, yeah.
What reservations or hesitations did you have about trying municipal?
I think, we've been using municipal for as long as I can remember, so at least 12 years now. So in the beginning, it was a new product. There's going to be hiccups and things like that. But I think the initial hesitation is actually people following through on the bids. We did have some times where people would back out the last minute or make their bid and not come pick up the items. So you go to the second lowest bidder, but that was more the hesitation with, do they list our right phone numbers? Do they list the right email addresses? Things like, but those kinks work themselves out, and now I wouldn't use any other system.
That's wonderful to hear. Can you think of what your best experience with using Municipid has been?
I think one of the best experiences is that we get a lot of repeat customers. I mean, there's people that will wait to see when West Norriton puts equipment up because the reputation we have of not selling junk, and they know the big thing. I always remember back in the day when the Ford Crown Victorias were still, in the fleets, a lot of old taxi companies would come in and buy them because the miles were low. We would have people calling us, asking us, when are you going to put up a Crown Vic next? Because they wanted to bid on our items. We built those kind of relationships with them. And it's nice to see the stories of what happens with our equipment when it goes somewhere else. Like we sold a dump truck a couple years ago to a landscaper, and it became a plow truck for the Philadelphia Eagles parking lot. And it was pretty cool being able to go down to the Eagles game and point to that truck and say, I remember that truck, that was our salt truck. It's nice how they get repurposed and be able to see that.
Yeah, that's cool. And like the history following the vehicles. Have you had any experiences with Municipid that made you laugh?
I'm trying to remember because there's been a couple of laughable experiences just like in interacting with people. Like we had one person come in and they said, "Well, you take cash?" We said, "Yeah." He walked in with a stack of dollar bills. Like it's just funny how people pay for things or tell you what they're going to use the equipment for. Like we had someone that bought an ambulance and turned it into a tailgate truck, things like that. And I think there's actually one on Municipal right now. That's the Patriots ambulance up in Boston somewhere. So those are the kind of the funny stories, like what people are going to do with it. Are you asking like, what are you, or the question coming from us is, what are you going to do with this? Because like we'll sell random things sometimes, like a slate of old computers. What are you going to do with these? Oh, my kid likes to play with them. Like, so it's that kind of cool stuff, getting an understanding what the repurposing of that kind of stuff is. So,
what do you think the strangest or maybe like most unusual item is that you've sold on Municipid?
I mean, for us, it's probably a lot of the old golf equipment that we had from the golf course, like old mowers and things like that, that probably you wouldn't use again, but people, they like that kind of stuff. People like, I have a new fondness for people who do small engine repair and how they like to tinker with the old stuff that we have and put it to use. But yeah, that's the kind of the stuff that it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm constantly impressed with our bidders and how creative they are.
They definitely can get creative. I know that's what I like, and they, and sometimes they can get lots of stuff at a cheap price. So that's the with using Municipal.
What impact has Municipal made for your community, your staff here, and your residents here at West Norriton?
Well, one, I think it's the money we get back on the item. I mean, we have a vehicle replacement fund, so when we sell a vehicle, any proceeds from that go back into the fund to help buy the new vehicle. And, when we were seeing, back in the early 2000s, getting $1,800 for an old police car, we're getting $9,000, $10,000 now on resale. So that's really helping us lessen the financial burden on our residents when it comes to replacing equipment because of that resale value that we're getting with helping us with the new upfitting costs. Because, technology changes, LED lights and things like that for our police cars, so they get a little bit more expensive. But that margin that we're getting on the resale is really helping us kind of offset those costs and helping our residents out so we don't have to raise taxes to maintain our vehicle fleets anymore. So
yeah, it's awesome. Is there any particular item that sticks out in your mind that you were surprised that you were able to sell it for that much?
Yeah, we bought a front end loader from a Plymouth Township. There was an intermunicipal. We bought it for $5,000. It's probably like an 80-something, We in turn used it, got out what we needed from it, and then we sold it for $10,000 on Municipal. So it's just crazy how there's a market for everything and people buy that. Like what we thought was going to be, if we make our money back, ended up doubling what we made on it on the initial purchase of it. So
that's incredible.
Yeah.
Would you recommend Municipal to other municipalities, and if so, why?
Absolutely. I mean, municipal government, there's we have to follow certain rules and regulations when it comes to how we operate. Municipal really makes it easier for us in that one sector where we have to deal with surplus and our fleet management, things like that, because it's simple and if anyone can use a Word document, anyone can use Municipal because that's just how easy it is to do that. But it also gives you a wider audience, like I said, and if you're going to be good stewards of the taxpayer dollars, you want to do what's best for your taxpayers in that. And Municipal, hands down, is probably one of the best things that ever came across our desk.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's awesome to hear. I'm very glad. What advice would you give to other municipalities looking to sell their surplus and maybe they've never used an online auction before?
Yeah. I mean, I think the best thing for any first-time users is give as much detail as possible. That's the one thing we noticed was the more detail you give, I think that's the more bidders that you'll get because you're kind of being transparent and open with what you're putting out. Because I'll see some listings from municipalities that don't give a lot of detail, but then you get into that engaging, the back and forth, the questioning, and some people can view that as an annoyance. So what we've learned is as many pictures as possible, try to think like you are the bidder and what you're going to list and what questions you can anticipate. But other than that, I mean, it's a no-brainer to use in my opinion.
Thank you. That's fantastic. Is there anything else you'd like to share about West Norriton or like about your experience with Municipid overall?
No. I mean, I remember when Greg first started talking about this when he was a councilman, I think this was like early 2007, 2008, and just watching how it's grown has been incredible. I mean, I have friends that work in municipal government in other states that, we turn them on to Municipid and they love it. But it also, we like it too because we also bid on Municipid. There are times where we'll go in there and buy surplus equipment from other municipalities that we see or school districts or things like that we bought leaf boxes, which are hard to find, but central Pennsylvania, we went out there and found a leaf box on there and went and bought it and picked so that's the uniqueness of it. You can be the seller but also be the buyer too in these circumstances. And it also helps, we've made a lot of connections with other municipalities through this process too, with word of mouth and things like that. So it also helped us build connections for other services that we do, intermunicipal agreements and things like that maybe Municipid wouldn't have gotten us before.
That's really cool, building like a network of municipalities.
Yeah, it helps, especially every municipality is different. Everyone has a different structure of government, size. There's municipalities in Pennsylvania that some just have 600 residents. Then you have places like Upper Darby Township has 100,000 residents. So there's a wide variety of what you deal with in the sector. So the one thing that is with Municipid is it kind of connects everybody on the same level, whether you're that 600-person borough or the city of Philadelphia. We're all treated equal and viewed equally in the same light when it comes to Municipid. So
that's fantastic. Yeah, thank you so much. Really
Anytime.
appreciate
it.
It.
Anything I can do to help spread the word about Municipid, I'll do it because we reaped a lot of positive from using Municipid since we went with it. So.
Do you happen to know by chance, like over the years that you've used Municipid, like how much you've sold in items?
Ooh. I mean, I bet you we has sold in value close to about $500,000. And I could probably tell you if we went the traditional process, it might have been about 125 at that. So just that alone is, a huge, huge budgetary impact on the positive side for us. So.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah.
I'm sure all the taxpayers here greatly appreciate it too.
They do. When you don't have to raise taxes, everybody's happy. So.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Jason.
Anytime.
Awesome.
No, I appreciate it. This was awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for tuning in to the Municipid podcast. If you'd like to learn more about the world of government surplus, be sure to subscribe to this podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts.